for organizations to train their employees, right, and also transmit knowledge at a much faster pace than what was previously possible. So I'm going to start with Mary and ask her, what are the challenges that you face today in terms of growing and building your RGM teams, and how you basically think that potentially AI can change that?
Well, thank you, Ravi. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And this is a conversation very open to your questions. I've been in this journey for several years, right? I mean, I think I started 10 years ago or more than that. And always the barrier for this, at the beginning, I thought was the data and technology and all that, right? But really, I think that the real change that AI is bringing to everybody here is just putting out the best and the worst barrier, which is people, right? We are just the ones that are really not driving the transformation. And everything started because in order to overcome that, hill there, you have to bring somebody from the business and convince that person that this is good, because this person is going to be your spokesperson. And this person has to make like a translation between this piece of the technical things and all the data structuring and all that into the business. If you lack of that person, then you are done. Whatever you were trying to do is not going to drive any result. So what is magnificent about this is that technical piece is not disappearing, right? I mean, this is technology, but that hill is really flat now. It's going to be available for a single business person. So you don't have to worry about that. Somebody is going to not understand what you were doing, then you don't have the confidence of the business, then nobody's going to implement. And that's a frustration and the thing that is always happening. Everybody have these transformations, but then you don't see the value, then your boss is saying this is not working, then you're so frustrated, right? So, and that's why, because of that hill. Now with ChatGPT, the hill is not there anymore. So people just can ask their business questions and receive business answers. And that's the beauty of all of this. And based in structured data, so we are going to become more data-driven for sure.
Mohit, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, before I take the technology lens, I moved over from Kellogg. Actually, I was a colleague for Maria Kumana till last year, moved over to Microsoft last year. And so before I take the technology lens, which I think plays a very important role, I think absolutely echo what Maria Kumana said. It's about the people ultimately and how those tools are applied. And today, I think what we are finding is largely the RGM practitioners are a handful of people, even in Fortune 500 companies, right? Maximum a couple of dozens, who are actually going to the tools on a regular basis. And if you're not going into a tool at least once a week, you don't go into a tool. We all know that, right? So I think that's the biggest problem we are trying to solve with our AI toolkit, ChatGPT being the latest that gets into the family of AI tools that Microsoft brings to the table to solve these problems. But adoption, to your point, and democratizing these tools, and not just 10 people, but 1,000 people, across different personas, who can go and use these tools and benefit from these tools and get excited by these tools, not have a sense of anxiety when they're using these tools, right? The non-technical user in a company like a Coca-Cola, Kellogg, or a P&G feels anxiety getting into these tools for several reasons. We won't get into that here, right? But we are trying to kind of just remove that friction, with our AI family of tools, and ChatGPT is going to actually create that acceleration of adoption that we talked about. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think one of the things that we're already seeing is, rather than giving graphs and numbers, you give narratives, right? So when you give narratives, people understand a lot better and faster, right? And even if, for example, there's a very complex RGM document, you just tell your co-pilot in Microsoft or GPT that, hey, simplify this for me and tell me in 5 bullet points what I need to know from this, right? That kind of capability exists today, right? So I think that's going to kind of really transform and simplify all the jargons and all the stuff that the technical users use, but really the business users can now take that knowledge and apply it, right? So I think that's going to be a big driver that's going to happen, right? That's the starting point, right? That's what we are already doing as consumers, and that's where probably we're going to start seeing GPT impacting business as well to start with. But that's the starting point, right? What's next, right? So one of the biggest impacts that we see right after that of GPT is on the data side. At Decision Point, we are already doing a lot of work to see how a lot of the processes that we are using for data harmonization or data cataloging, right? So bringing together data from your retail audit, from your internal sales, consumer panels, right? There's a huge amount of manual mapping of required, the cleansing of the data, right? So we all know that, garbage in, garbage out, right? And a lot of times we don't use insights from RGM because we don't trust the data, right, that goes into it. And I think AI is going to kind of make a big impact there in automating a lot of it, right? I think maybe we have been on this journey, right? So we know how difficult it is to bring data, and we have been trying to industrialize that process, right, over the last year or so. But I think AI could become something that we can really leverage to make that process more automated, more efficient. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many of you are working currently in any digital transformation? So you know, guys, how hard it is to deal with the data, right? So how painful, how frustrated it can be. And the problem is that when you are doing the first steps, well, you have the energy, you have all the drive to show the value and then the adoption, right? But the problem is this is not a picture, this is a movie. So you have to do this every time in order to be really adopted. So if you continue with the pain, it's going to be hard. An organization is really going to drive this transformation. So it's absolutely essential to smooth and to reduce the friction with all the data ingesting and structuring and having the confidence that the data is in the right quality, right? And also, if you have that already, of course, you can really come with insights. And sometimes the problem is that the way we see this in Kellogg, in order to really drive value, you really need to understand the opportunity. So you have to go through an end-to-end process, looking for those opportunities. But sometimes people is reluctant to do this, and it's not really connected. So to be powerful, to multiply the value, you really need to have the full data sets there, not only pieces of that. It is not a mechanical thing, it's not only a tool. The tool will help you, will drive faster kind of scenarios, but the main value is coming from having the full data sets in the back and understanding how to multiply the value of that. And if that is not ready there, or it is not clean, it is not structured because it's painful to do it, then of course people is going to say no, but it's there from, I don't know, February, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to play my same game all the time. And tools become useless, right?
Any comments, Mohit, on that?
No, very well captured. I think we can carry on.
The next big impact that we are going to see is in terms of predictive and prescriptive analytics, right? So let me just give an example, and this is again stuff that we have already gone live with some of our customers, is today you have to basically take people to analytics, right? So basically you have dashboards, you have tools, people have to go to these analytics tools and capabilities, but and all of these dashboards. And that becomes a big barrier. Right? People already have so many tools and they're on so many meetings that they don't have the time to go and learn each tool very well and really expand that. Now, what with AI is going to start happening, and we are already kind of starting to see the impact in terms of adoption through these things, is rather than them going to go find the data that they are looking for, right? AI understands the context of the user, right? Their role and what is it that they have looked at in the past in terms of data, in terms of their emails and everything. And then it can actually send them nudges, right? In terms of what exactly is the insight that they need right now. And even if they're, for example, looking for some specific analysis, AI can actually come back and suggest to them, hey, these are other analysis you can actually drive which can help you, right? Almost like what you get as an experience on Amazon, right? So when you actually go buy a product or based on a history of purchase of products, you actually are suggested a different products, right? And we are going to see more and more of this kind of stuff. And we are going to go more prescriptive, right? So if somebody is able to ask a question on, hey, what promotion should I run, given my current market share changes and my profitability, right? AI can actually come back and give them options and give them the pros and cons of each option, right? It might not be able to take a decision directly, but then it can actually give you pretty much all the information needed to take those decisions, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we are going to see evolve, and we are already starting to implement some of that kind of stuff with the kind of power that GPT is giving. Mohit, maybe you want to start there, and then
Yeah, this is actually a topic very close to my heart specifically because, see, till about 5 years back, there was a lot of conversation on data silos, and Mary touched on that a little bit also. But now I think the conversation is shifting towards tool silos. Okay, because what's happened is we have built these in different parts of the ecosystem. We have built these tools that cater to a very specific problem, right? You've built an assortment tool, you've built a promotion tool, you've built a pricing tool, right? You've kind of a display and feature optimization tool sitting on the side there, right? A trade tool. So these tools have been built with overlapping data ecosystems, but user interfaces that are different. These tools don't talk to each other today. But all of us are shoppers, right? And the output of all these tools hits us together at the first moment of truth, right? And if these tools are not in synchrony and they're pointing in different directions, the shopper notices that, right? So a tool might be optimizing within a particular problem, but it's not optimizing across the entire spectrum of RGM capabilities that the organization has today, right? To add to that problem, these tools have been built by different vendors sometimes, right? In different data ecosystems, in different cloud infrastructure sometimes, because a lot of our customers are operating multi-cloud in some cases, right? So, that's the state of the industry today, right? And we are looking at the AI, again, coming back to the family of AI tools that we have, ChatGPT, OpenAI being the latest addition in that family to solve this big problem of tool silos, right? And I think the real unlock will be, when we can solve that problem and actually look across and actually have a persona like a key account manager at Kroger actually saying, hey, I am going to do this promotion. Is it syncing with my assortment strategy or not? Is it syncing with my pricing strategy or not, right? That's the unlock that we are expecting out of ChatGPT. It's a journey because it's so siloed today. And you all know that. Our folks who are doing this day in and day out know how siloed these tools are. So it's going to be a journey, but that's what we need to do to get to the next level of growth. Yeah.
Maybe your thoughts on those questions.
Is it okay to ask a question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I was just thinking about training the model. Like you could talk a little bit about, because today if you just go to OpenAI, ChatGPT, whatever, and ask a question about revenue growth management, it's very simple, very high level. How are companies thinking about customizing it for A, their strategies, B, kind of the way they want to talk to their personas inside, and how do you foresee this training happening, especially when you think about obviously the public sources of risk and things like that. You're not going to load a ton of data publicly, so if you could just talk a little bit about that, I'm just curious.
Super question, because this is really top of mind, hot off the press. We are, even as Microsoft employees, we are getting onboarded on these technologies as we talk, right? And we are, in one way we are getting onboarded, and from the other door we are taking it to our customers. So it's a really dynamic quarter that we are sitting in at this point. But to your question, there are a couple of ways we are looking at. One is really the the bigger engine, the ChatGPT OpenAI engine that we have, which is based on everything that's there on the internet, right? Which is, it's a web crawl technology, which is based on a feedback loop with large language models. You can actually do a high level, what we call prompt engineering, to actually nudge that larger model to actually perform tasks for you within your enterprise. Okay, so that's the most practical application, which we call prompt engineering. I won't go into the details, not that I understand everything well, but it's basically you're providing some prompts to the model which are very targeted to the specific problem and extracting the data from multiple sources within your ecosystem in the enterprise, and those prompts then work to solve that problem. Yeah? So that's kind of one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is actually create a mini enterprise model of your own, which is based on enterprise data, right? And you're training the model just like the OpenAI folks have trained the model with publicly available data. You train it with your captive enterprise data, and you create your custom model, in the OpenAI infrastructure, right? And that model then uses your data. It's a very cumbersome process. There's going to be like lots of feedback loops involved because the model needs to get trained on, is it good, is it bad, is it good? You need like thousands and millions of iterations to train that model. It doesn't happen overnight. That's the other way of doing it. It's expensive as well, right? Because you're customizing that model for your enterprise, yeah? And the third thing that we are working on is actually a hybrid approach, which is prompt engineering plus some level of customization that's needed, which is fast and agile, which can actually get you to a very high degree of surety on your models, and it still works for you, right? So those, to your question, those are the three different ways we are exploring within Microsoft as we are creating these co-pilot experiments with some of our strategic customers. These are the three different scenarios that we are building for them. Yeah?
And just to add to that, like most of the work that we are doing for our clients in partnership with Microsoft, so there is basically an OpenAI enterprise license. So it's not the World Wide Web ChatGPT that is used, but there's a very, very specific enterprise license that is getting used for our clients. So therefore that's not, your data is kind of not going to the World Wide Web. So just to be clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mary, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, I want to translate a little bit the experience, right? I mean, anyhow, you need to have your data structure. I mean, you already have it. If you are in the digital learning, or you are going to be, you need to have all these data sets for many sources already integrated, and as we were discussing, in one place. Problem now is the silos, right? I mean, some people is checking the external data, some people is checking what's going on with your market performance, some people is checking something else. They don't have insights, they come up with maybe the same solution they were doing, but faster, right? That's, for me, the main problem. So the data is there, and you need your data because you need to answer your business questions. Everything here is about driving value, responding your business questions. So once you have the data, of course, you have to go through the training of the model, but if you want to drive RGM, anyhow, you have to spend at least, when we work so fast, 4 or 5 months in order to have, all the agile methodology going through all that. Purchase structure, driving all the cross elasticities, all that, the tools. So if you think about the time, this is going to really make it faster. So, but it's not instantaneous, right? I mean, it still is for you, because the questions you are going to ask are relative to your problems.
Yeah. So kind of all of this leads to our next point, right, which is adoption of RGM tools. So we talked about 3 things, right? So one is kind of minimizing the barrier of entry so people can access in simple natural language. Second is making data better, faster, right? So there's more relevant data that's getting out to users. And the third is obviously, as Mohit said, breaking the tool silos and kind of giving the relevant information irrespective of which tool it exists in. It could be in a TPO tool, it could be in a sales forecasting tool, it doesn't matter, right? Bringing it all together in one environment and kind of giving access to that to the users. I think all of this is going to become a big factor in really driving faster adoption of all RGM capabilities. So we actually, for example, have been working with Kellogg's in kind of, we have been piloting and now we are going to start scaling, this product of ours called Beagle, which is basically on Microsoft Teams, right? So where all your tools that are there, you can actually get the outputs of that, and users can access it without going to those tools, right? Within Microsoft Teams, where they are doing their regular meetings and catch-ups, right? So, and in the same level of visual forms and insights that you get from those tools. So that is kind of the capabilities, and that are going to get even more accelerated through GPT technology. And we're going to see a much faster adoption of these tools and data, right? For in the RGM space. Mary, what is your experience so far, and how do you see adoption playing a role?
Well, I was saying at the beginning, the real challenge here is the people, right? For many reasons. I should say that some people is really reluctant to change because of all the uncertainty, don't really get in what's going on in the back. And even if you do a lot of training, people still are, a little bit afraid of, I cannot answer the right questions, right? Yeah. So this is for me the real thing. This is my real story, right? You have a population of the RGM users, then you train them, you change the processes because you have to change the processes, you have to really change the routines. We really set up all that, but at the end, even within the team, there are some people still reluctant to do the changes, right? So it takes more time. Talking about the time, this is really what really takes the time. The time is not building an algorithm. The time is behind the people that is not using this. And then you have to retrain and go and again. When you go to talk to people that the way they are talking, the way they use, remember I told you about the heel, the translator. Once the heel is not there, people is fully committed to continue asking business questions. That's the language they know. And for sure, what Ravi was mentioning, and we were doing all that last year, is all of us, we work on teams or kind of things, we do chatting a lot, so that is not a barrier, one less. Then you always chat with your people requesting data. How many you have told you somebody from your team, which was the latest share? Send me this, send me that, and they are all using the chat, right? So another barrier that is not there. Now you can do those by yourself. And you can ask and integrate and democratize the insight. So it's very powerful because there are no barriers. It's your normal environment. And something important, Ravi, I want to share, like very insightful thing that happened to me. A couple of months ago, I was with my C-suite, sharing that we are going to continue advancing on this. And I asked, how many of you are using ChatGPT? It was like half of the audience, right? Wow. It was good. Last week I made the same question. How many of you are in all of them? So if you think about the barriers even for democratizing this expertise, it's going beyond the RGM teams. And that is so important because then you have an RGM fault working and driving in a scenario, and there his boss is requesting something different. Now everybody can ask. So you have a smooth process through the company, and I think that that's the power of this.
Yeah, and with talking on that and Microsoft Teams as a potential interface, right? So it has kind of become like the operating system of all pretty much the entire enterprise world, right? And tell us a little bit about how you see that and the kind of way we are driving. Bringing in all the analytics within Microsoft Teams. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think first of all, I want to acknowledge Decision Point has been kind of pioneering, kind of analytic tools that can not just sit within teams, but can actually unlock the power of teams, right? Because, typically you see that as a communication platform and at best a collaboration platform. But the moment you start seeing and Microsoft Teams as a decision support or a decision intelligence platform, the unlock is completely different. Okay, and I'll capture that in very tangible terms. I mean, within Microsoft, one of my biggest revelations, getting from a classic CPG company like Kellogg, or I've worked with P&G before, versus when I got into Microsoft last year, was the number of emails that I get now has dramatically dropped. I get less than 10 emails a day now. Okay, because we are on Teams all day. Okay, everything is happening on Teams, and it's gone from a communication platform to a collaboration platform to a decision support, and then finally a decision intelligence platform is the vision for Teams, right? So I think the unlock, that's where the unlock is really, right, Ravi? That when you start looking at these platforms to make decisions, capture decisions, get a feedback loop for those decisions that can then fuel the AI engine. Because one of the problems we run into while we make decisions, especially I'm not talking about the Gen Zs here, I'm talking about, the profile of people in this room, is we love making decisions on Excel sheets, we love making decisions in meetings, we love making decisions on email. We don't know how to make decisions on a platform. Okay, and when we start doing that, we have to recognize that if we don't do that on a consistent basis, we will not be able to unlock the power of artificial intelligence. Okay, because artificial intelligence needs a feedback loop in some shape and form, right? And if you're not able to make a decision and capture what actually happened based on that decision, in the model, you're not going to make the model better. Simple as that. Yeah. So that's the unlock that I'm expecting as a vision for Teams.
Yeah, that's a great insight. Yeah, and I think we are getting there. I think Microsoft's roadmap is also very exciting for Teams, and we are really excited to partner on that journey. That's great. The last one is also about scaling use cases, right? So especially folks here who are more in the who are working across multiple markets, right? One of the biggest pain points that you have is that how do you take a use case that you have built in one market and then expand it to multiple markets, right? This is also a space where we see GPT and AI kind of coming in and playing a big role in the future, where it can actually customize. So let's say if GPT understands the differences between multiple markets and you have executed a use case in one market, it could potentially come back and remodel that for the next market, a lot of it automated, right? And that could actually become so once you know that something is working in one market, it's going to be a lot less resource intensive to kind of move it to more markets. Mary, I think you have been doing this for a long time, so what is your thoughts on this?
I think this is just fantastic, Ravi, because of course, you start with your major market. You have this kind of matrix we all have. This is my priority. I'm going to have this sequence, right? But even though you already went through the journey, you have to start again, right? And you have to train the people. And again, it's the same kind of always going to the hill. With this artificial intelligence kind of power, you really create the universal kind of knowledge, right? I mean, if you are in one industry as we are, like retail, cereal, snacking, and it's mainly the kind of same of categories everywhere. So we really can leverage the things that are going well and the things that are going bad. And not, working like silos, because the knowledge is the most powerful tool, and actually for me, is the real asset of companies. So if you can really have this kind of centralized wisdom, you can really scale fast, because your categories and your initiatives in certain markets are going to compare and start thinking, why don't? Why don't? And bringing to the table new ideas that eventually might take a lot of time. So I'm not only talking about the technical piece, which is fantastic, but also about the knowledge and the power of that.
Absolutely. I think we are almost out of time, so just a few last words. Mohit, from your side on our partnership, you've just spoken a little bit about that. I think we have had a fantastic partnership with Microsoft in taking a lot of the really advanced technologies and creating value for clients. Would love to hear a few words about that from you.
Yeah, so for those of you who have followed the trajectory for Microsoft, I think, we are very proud of our partner ecosystem. I'll start with that because we really see value when we go together as, a partner who brings something new and different to the table, and Microsoft that of course brings the platform, the data infrastructure, the AI tools, the applications, etc. In this case specifically, what we are finding with Decision Point is the RGM know-how, right? The expertise, the ability to actually, kind of understand the nuanced nature of the problems and challenges that exist in different markets and different channels, etc. I think is super critical, right? And we have been very successful, I would say, with strategic customers going in and talking together about how we will actually create this we call it co-sell, lack of a better word, right? Co-sell that will benefit the customer. It will be a win-win, and the customer also sees that value, right? The RGM know-how coming together with the technology platforms and the applications that support those platforms, it's really seen as a win-win. And so, thank you for your partnership, first of all. And I know several account teams, who will actually echo the same sentiments, that I just said. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Mohit. And Mary, with you, I think we have been a great partner with you for the last 3 years. It's been a wonderful partnership, creating value. Just a few words.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can say this with Ravi in front of me or without him in the room. What you need really is a partner, right? You don't need a vendor. You need somebody that can really work with you through all these changes that are in front of you, all the challenges of the business, and really especially this merge of the technical foundations plus the business knowledge is really what drives the value, right? So if I can tell, it's been a very successful journey, very supportive journey, being there always for us, bringing the new things, I mean, really taking us to the next level. And I can tell you in the case of Kellogg, actually Kellogg Latin is leading this agenda. I can say that very proudly. And part of that leadership is becoming a Decision Point, right? So I'm very, very proud of this partnership. I really appreciate the support. And I've been working with the big ones, the big ones, the small ones, and I can tell you what you really need to look for is for a partner. This is not a short period of time. This is a journey, and you really need to drive value. That's the only metric that it can say you drive the success story.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary and Mohit, for really being here and having this very interesting conversation. Just a couple of call-outs before I just wrap up. We have a lot of thought leadership on GPT, RGM, which is available at our booth, so feel free to drop in and take any of these thought leadership series that we have. We also have a real booth, where you can actually experience a lot of what we talk about, how GPT can actually drive RGM. We have that stuff in the booth. My colleague Abhishek is here who will kind of walk you through that and in very interesting ways. So feel free to go and experience what it's like to see GPT in action within the RGM space. So with that, thank you so much, and over to you, Pat.